Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports.
Welcome, everybody, to FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. This is the Fighting Irish Daily Blitz, and I'm your host, Rob Thidoff, also known as RPT. You can find me on Twitter at PThidoff. So for episode 63, it's going to be a recap of men's basketball for the week. Another bad week. I can't, as I always say, I can't sugarcoat this anymore. It's really bad right now. 2 games, 2 losses. One was pretty close. The other one, we were more or less just out there. It was close for a while, and then Wake Forest just ran away with it. So Wednesday night at Notre Dame, playing North Carolina, a very disappointing North Carolina. Preseason number 1. They're fighting for their tournament lives currently. They absolutely had to have this game at South Bend. Notre Dame was actually up 27-19 at half. Horrible shooting for both teams. Let me first get to the records. Going into that game, Notre Dame 10-17, losers 5 straight at the time. 10-17 overall, 2-14 in the ACC. North Carolina, a disappointing 16-11, 8-8 overall. As I mentioned earlier, we're up 27-19 at the half. North Carolina just storms back in the second half. However, they go up by, I think, about 4 points, but then we hang pretty tough the rest of the way. It could have went either way, the game, but here's the thing. Despite North Carolina struggling this year, they have a lot better athletes, obviously, than Notre Dame. They out-rebounded us 52-33, and that pretty much, to me, was the deciding factor of this game, as North Carolina ekes out this win that they desperately needed. 63-59. Notre Dame falls to 10-18 and 2-15 in the ACC. North Carolina 17-11, 9-8 in the ACC. Some stats, not really much to say. Cormac Ryan led the way, 14 points, 7 rebounds, and then off the bench, Trey Wirtz had 13, and JJ Starling, pretty talented freshman, as I always say, he had 10 points and had a solid game as well. So Saturday, as I record today, the game just got over at Wake Forest. We come in 10-18, 2-15 in the ACC. Wake Forest was 17-11, 9-8 in the ACC. A pretty close first half. We were without JJ Starling, got hurt during the North Carolina game, as well as Marcus Hammond. They can't go. So granted, we're an awful team this year, but without those two, that really hindered our backcourt. We ended up playing Matt Zona off the bench, who's barely played. He's a junior now. And Robbie Carmody, 5th-year senior. He's part of this senior group that's ups and downs all the time. He's been pretty much hurt his entire career. A bad break, no pun intended. He's had tons of injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. He saw some minutes, didn't score. Matt Zona did score 2 points. So Notre Dame goes to 10-19, 2-16 in the ACC. The ironic thing here, these 5th-year seniors, now granted, there were some other players that came in with these seniors in 2018. They either ended up leaving the program or after last year, like Prentice Hupp, he could have been on this team this year, but he decided to not use his COVID year. He went to play overseas. I don't blame him after this year. But what I'm trying to say is they had a pretty bad record their freshman year in the 2018-2019 season. However, it's looking like they're going to have a worse record for both overall record and ACC record as 5th-year seniors. And I keep saying this year, experience means nothing unless you have pretty good talent or talent around you. And we're finding out that experience didn't mean much this year. Wake Forest goes to, or I'm sorry, here's another interesting stat. We are 0-11 away from South Bend. We have not had a road victory at all this year. That's our 7th loss in a row. We have not won at all in February. It just gets worse and worse. We relied too much on the 3 tonight. We went 5-19 from the 3-point range, out-rebounded 42-32. Ben Allen Lubin, he had a decent game inside. I don't know why, instead of relying on the 3, which we typically do all the time, especially with this group, we should have kept going into Ben Allen Lubin. Nice game, 19 points, 8 rebounds. Trey Wirtz, 12 points, 8 rebounds. Cormac Ryan, 12 points, 4 rebounds. But it was a despite hanging tough for a little bit, it was just another awful game. I mean, at one point, Trey Wirtz threw the ball to the referee. He thought it was a Notre Dame player. It's gotten that bad. And then Matt Zona, there's no one around him. He threw the ball into the stands. I don't get it. I'm sure he's a great kid. He's now a junior. And I believe some of this on coaching too. He should have been developed a little bit more by now. Junior, he still looks like he has no clue what's going on out there. He's not a threat offensively, defensively. The guy's going to be a senior next year. And his development has been awful, to put it bluntly. What else here? Excuse me. Wednesday is our next game, home against Pitt. That'll be Mike Spray last game at Notre Dame. We'll see if they can somehow muster up some enthusiasm, at least get the final home game for Mike Bray to be a win. Pitt is currently leading in the ACC. They've been in a surprise team this year at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. And then next Saturday on the ACC network, we close out the regular season at 8 p.m. against Clemson. What else here? There's been some rumors this week. I don't buy this, that possibly Rick Pitino could be the next coach at Notre Dame. I highly doubt that's going to happen. One, he's great. He's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. But the way he left Louisville, there was some scandal there, and Notre Dame tries to avoid that as much as possible. I believe he's in his 70s now. Unless they just wanted him for a couple years. I mean, he could probably turn it around, but I just don't see that happening the way Notre Dame hires coaches. I just don't see it. Well, but we'll see. There's been rumors too, possibly Chris Holtmann from here in Columbus, because the Buckeyes are having one of their worst seasons I can remember. I don't see that happening as well, but I just hope, just a message to Jack Swarbrick. Can you please go above and beyond to try to get the best basketball coach possible to replace Coach Bray? You owe that to us fans, within the university as a whole. This has been a struggle this year, and we don't want to see a season like this again. It may take a couple years to turn this program around, if that's possible, based on the replacement that you hire for Coach Bray. But please don't, shorthand us right now, especially with the way, football, the assistants have been not hired at Notre Dame. Andy Ludwig from Utah, that would have been a great offensive coordinator. But please, can we go all out to get the best basketball coach to replace? That's all we ask. That's all I ask. I think that's all the university asks, because this is just a mess right now. And I hope to God too. I know JJ Starling was looking to be a first-round draft pick in the NBA last year. He's been hurt a lot in the second half of the season. He's not played as well. I'm thinking he's probably coming back to Notre Dame, or he's going to enter the transfer portal. We shall see. And I'd love to have Ben Allen Lubin back too. Get some guys in the portal. Well, we're going to have to. We're going to have to get probably 6 to 7, because I don't think some of these guys are coming back at Notre Dame. I haven't seen Tony Sanders. I mentioned it before, Matt Zona, who has not been developed his first 3 years. Same thing with Tony Sanders. He's a junior. I don't know if he left the team, if he's hurt. I haven't seen him on the bench the last 2 to 3 games. So we're going to need 5 to 6 new players, whether that's recruits. We got 2 guys coming in now, because one guy backed out. So we're probably going to need about 4 to 5 transfer portal guys. And I always said, watch out next year to be one of the best years ever, because it's going to be pretty much a brand new team with hardly any veteran guys coming back, unless, JJ comes back and Ben Allen Lubin. So to be determined. So I can't say it enough. I just want this season over. I know these kids have worked hard, but I've been saying that so much lately, and I'm just tired of this. This sounds harsh. I'm tired of this group. It's been 5 years now. They maxed out pretty much last year when they were about 2 minutes away from going to the Sweet 16. They had that great win in Dayton against Rutgers when they played Wednesday night, and the game finished in overtime on St. Patrick's Day, ironically. And then they had a great win over Alabama out in San Diego. Had they not turned the ball over, I always say Blake Wesley, he was a talented kid, don't get me wrong, but I think he contributed the most for us losing. It was a team effort losing, but he contributed most to us losing that game with his turnovers and missed free throws late in the game. Had things gone a certain way, which they should have, if we just protect the ball and hit our free throws, We end up upsetting Texas Tech, and then we're playing Duke in the Sweet 16. And I know Coach Bray has said he was thinking about retiring after that game. And I think, obviously, he stayed too long. And, these fifth-year seniors stayed too long, too. It might have been truly a rebuilding year this year with all those guys leaving. But you know what? I don't know if it would have been any worse than this season right now, because this is pretty bad. 10-19, 2-16. If we have a bunch of, a couple, obviously we would have had to get some transfers out of there too. But I don't, if we had 5 to 6 new players is what I'm trying to say, and all those, fifth year guys didn't come back, I don't know if it would have been any worse than this year. So, and then too, I said this earlier in a couple earlier podcasts. I had mentioned, well, that's a podcast you'll see before this one, but North Carolina just lost one player from last year, Brady Manick, but he was such a great shooter, and they do not have the greatest shooters this year. And just that one guy has affected their play tremendously. Well, last year, Paul Atkinson, about 6'11" guy. He wasn't the greatest player, but that inside presence, we do not have that this year at all. I think Ben Allen Lubin has the potential to be that, but typical of Coach Bray, he doesn't like to use his freshmen early on in their career, and Matt Zona hasn't developed. And then Blake Wesley too, even though he gave me a lot of headaches, he was very talented. He was a first-round pick, obviously, in last year's NBA draft. But just those two guys with their talent and height, it was less pressure on the fifth-year seniors this year. It opened up their game is what I'm trying to say. And they just don't have that this year because Paul Atkinson and Blake Wesley are not here this year. And just losing those two players has affected us greatly is what I'm trying to say. So long story short, I hope Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick really takes a hard look at getting the best possible fit for Notre Dame to really restart this, even though I think it's going to take a couple years, unless we can get some really good transfers to come in next year. Really take a hard look of the best possible solution for this team going forward, because our fans deserve it. No matter how bad it is. I mean, it's as I mentioned before, I just want this season to end, but we're still going to cheer on our team, support our team. And that's with the current students, the alumni, people within the university. Don't cut us short by just hiring, just an average type of candidate. So thank you so much for joining me for episode 63. And as always, go Irish.